Hello, everyone, and thanks for listening. And so, pardon me, because I had a nice weekend actually, um, Memorial weekend, and I hope you are too. And so, the weather has been pretty clear here in Los Angeles, and we've had a little bit of drizzle. But this article is going into a well-known actor and was a former mayor or governor. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. We'll go into detail. So, or at least he was a political figure. We'll say that. So, Schwarzenegger, he defends a woman who is 102 years old. She's currently being evicted. And I believe it's here in the LA region. So, this is by Edmund DeMarche. And this is out of Fox News. And here is what looks like to me the background is the beach, and it looks like Santa Monica Pier. So Arnold Schwarzenegger said that he'll reach out to a 102-year-old woman being evicted from her home. And apparently he's not happy about this because, and I was right, Arnold Schwarzenegger, actor and former governor of California, on Sunday reportedly reached out to a 102-year-old Los Angeles woman being booted from her apartment where she lived. Now, listen how long she's lived there, 30 years. So, the landlord's daughter wants to move in that place, and that's why this woman feels that she's being evicted because this landlord wants to move in their family member. Her name is Thelma Smith, and she received a 90-day eviction notice for her month to month lease in early March and is now relying on friends and relatives who live on the East Coast to help her find a new place to live. It's so sad because this woman is a much older, woman, way much older, you know. I mean, she's not, you know, she's not in the same health as she would be somebody that is able to go out and try to work certain jobs, and try to accumulate money, and she's probably on a fixed income, I would believe. And so Schwarzenegger called the move very heartless. It's heartless, he said, and he'll be reaching out to help this woman. So he also issued a warning to the landlord saying, "You'll hear from me too." So he's very upset behind this because he feels that this is extremely unfair. But there are a lot of people that are being evicted from their homes, even in not just the LA region, but in other parts close to the Los Angeles area because of high rents. And I had reported on that in previous videos that there's a lot of unfairness going on, and it's sad. It is happening. So let's see. I don't know if this video will reveal what is being said in this article. Some videos do, some don't. So they usually start off with a commercial and then later it goes into what the article is stating. No, doesn't look like it. I've seen this in one of my other videos, so I'm going to continue reading. So imagine doing this to a 102-year-old woman who gave back to the community all her life, said the actor on Twitter. So this woman, I guess she was very influential in her community. She gave back to the community. So here's the issue at hand here. Okay, these are real videos about real things happening in the communities and why they're happening and whom they're happening to. So this is real stuff, unedited, uncut. You even hear me go, whatever, burp, whatever. So it is not phony. It's not all dressed up and flashy. So this is real stuff happening in the communities that people are dealing with. So the Los Angeles Rent Stabilization Ordinance says that landlords in the county can evict tenants to accommodate a relative. Isn't that something? So I think everybody should know this. Let me read this again. The Los Angeles Rent Stabilization Ordinance says that landlords in the county can evict tenants to accommodate a relative, but they must, now let's go into this. They must start with the most recent resident, okay? The most recent resident. Wow. As a renter, it makes you feel powerless in this situation. So it goes on to say that Smith, however, lives in an unincorporated Ladera Heights where the laws are weaker. Okay. They use this law to target long term, low paying tenants. Let me read this whole thing again because I don't think people realize that sometimes renting is a struggle and in and of itself. And when you read these laws and these ordinances and rules, it makes you start to think, man, maybe we should not be renting, in certain areas, or we should really look careful before, look at the fine print and read what you're getting yourself into before you sign up for some of these places. And so I know this to be truthful because some of these landlords are charging extreme rent fees and rent to places that really aren't worth that amount of rent. And I'm just going to be honest. If you look at Los Angeles, if you look at the homelessness, some of this homelessness is because people can't pay the rent because it's too high. And if you look at some of these places, they slap these signs up and they say luxury apartments, because they know that they can get market rate rent. And but when you look at the neighborhoods and what you're dealing with and some of the neighbors that you might have to deal with, you're still dealing with some of the same element of crime. you know, Downtown LA, they have homelessness, they have people who are dumping trash in places, and it comes to find out they're blaming homeless people, but it turns out to be some of the people that are merchant owners of businesses, and they are dumping, they're trying to skate by with not paying trash fees. So they're trying to get the homeless to dump their trash in different piles around in downtown LA. And we've heard of some of the issues that have happened in the Compton area with potholes and how the council members don't want to fix things, or whenever there's proposals to fix things, it's always halted. um, and these are places where they have jacked the rents up high, and but the city is not reflecting of the rent that you pay in these neighborhoods. And in Los Angeles, there's so much homelessness. You can see tents ever so often, and this graffiti everywhere, and it's the same thing that you've seen before, only that they just have a couple of buildings that they fix it up. And then if you've been there, if you're a low paying tenant, they try to figure out ways to make you discouraged so you'll move out, or they're very relaxed about fixing things, and or it's very cheaply put together, and then they want to slap a sign up saying luxury apartment so that they can just charge you the highest rent possible. And so this story is about this woman who's 102 years old living in Los Angeles Ladera Heights. She's been there for 30 years, and they want to move her out because she is being targeted because she's low income and a low paying renter. So Larry Gross, the executive director for the Coalition of Economic Survival, told this to the Times. So that's basically the whole article, and I'm basically breaking down to you some of the issues that have gone on. So this is Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's fed up with this. He's kind of taking a stand for this one particular lady, but yet I see an even bigger problem in the LA area. And if you really take a look at LA, there are a lot of places where they are doing the same thing that they're doing to this lady of 102. They're doing this to families. We're still starting to see a population of families that are homeless now. We're seeing people who they're not mentally ill, they're not on drugs, they just can't afford the rent. They're living in RVs, they're sleeping out of tents, they're living out of hotels and motels just to make ends meet. There are families that are living out of motels and hotels because they can't afford the rents. And that can be costly because sometimes they don't want you to stay in certain places for too long. So you have to constantly bounce around with your kids, which is an unstable environment. So, what do you think about this? This is really pretty much telling you what times we're living in terms of capitalism. You know, it's gone to the heads of these landlords, and then on top of that, that looking at this ordinance here as a renter, you're learning that you're powerless when it comes to being in your place. You know, if you've been there for a long time, you've been paying low rent, that if they want to decide to kick you out, they can do so, you know, and they can find loopholes to do it. And so, Ladera Heights, it says the laws are weaker. And last I checked, Ladera Heights is a pretty relatively expensive neighborhood to live in. And so, if this woman has been there as long as they say, the way the times are changing, a lot of these landlords want to get market rate rent. And so they do use these tactics to get people out. And this is not um, a surprise. It's not unheard of. It has happened even in the Inglewood area of residents who have been longtime tenants who pay low rent, that because they're building the stadium, the football stadium, that their rents have been affected and they have to move out because of the same issues of, you know, basically price gouging or rent gouging rather. So, with that being said, I'm going to let this video go. But this is really sad because it seems like it's happening in a lot of different places. Well, what are your thoughts on this? It's not just the 102-year-old woman. It's cold hearted that they would do this to a woman of this age, but they have also done it to families. They've done it to people who are working and they're low income workers and they don't make high incomes and six figures. They don't make, you know, condo money. Um, and two, that brings me to another issue before I leave this video is that I literally yesterday was driving through LA to Hollywood and I saw like maybe six or seven open house signs for houses that have been unoccupied and nobody is living in them and nobody can afford to buy them unless they make a certain amount of income, of course. But most of those houses just sit vacant. There's a house that's not that far from me, basically in walking distance. It's been vacant for months. And I believe the reason is because it's too expensive. And if you find out what the price of the homes are they say the rate the rate of some of the I guess the interest rates have dropped, but that is not making people rush to go out and buy homes. And why is that? Because people just can't afford it because they still want too much for these houses. And if you hear about some of the things, the controversies that have happened in these communities with the residents, why would you want to buy a home in these communities when you know you're going to be faced with all these other problems? You're a taxpayer, and that's part of your house. If you own the house, you're also paying for the lighting, for the streeting, for the, you know, the other amenities in the city. And if those things are not being met, why would you want to live in that environment? And so think about it, you know, these are some issues, real issues that are happening. And with that being said, I'm going to let this video go. Thank you for listening.